I'm not quite sure what got me interested in watching Pandorum in the first place. I remember when I first saw the trailer for it, I thought it looked kind of terrible. My entire impression of the film was some guy pulling his skin off, which is not something that particularly interested me. Somewhere along the line between it pretty much failing at the box office and coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, though, I kind of got interested in seeing it. And that happens to me a lot with these sort of genre horror films. I'll ignore them at first, and somewhere along the line I'll see a trailer or a commercial or a featurette, or I'll read a review or an article that sort of piques my interest. And that's what happened with Pandorum. So I went into it knowing very little, but hoping that I'd find something kind of enjoyable. I have to say I'm really glad I watched this movie instead of passing it off to one of my reviewers. It is really, really cool. I know most people don't know much about it, or if you do, you might have the same mistaken impression about the film that I do, but it's basically kind of like if you took The Descent, Neil Marshall's excellent horror film from a few years back, set it in space in the future, and threw a little bit of Event Horizon in, you would get Pandorum. The film's not perfect, has a few flaws. The storyline does get a little murky at one point when they start to try and explain the origins of what's happening. But the mystery of what caused things to happen the way they do in the film is pretty interesting, and the action scenes and the horror scenes are extremely effective. The film has a little bit of gore, but it isn't one of those films that's predicated on it. It doesn't just throw blood and guts at you and expect you to like it because you're a horror film. It actually tries to think, and for the most part it succeeds. Dennis Quaid is typically good as he usually is in his role, but Ben Foster is the standout here. Now, although he channels his inner Ryan Gosling a little bit, Foster, who you might remember from 3:10 to Yuma and especially 30 Days of Night, in which he was extremely good in the small role that he had, really does take over the screen here and carries this movie on his shoulders. Supported by a cast of unknowns around him, the movie is gripping from start to finish, and I have to tell you, this is one of those sleeper hits that I'm really glad I discovered. Pandorum is available from Anchor Bay on both DVD and Blu-ray, and there's not too much difference between them, except that the DVD actually has the shinier cover, which is pretty cool looking, and the Blu-ray includes a digital copy of the film, which is not available on the DVD. Other than that, you get your normal upgrade from DVD to Blu-ray. The Blu-ray of Pandorum looks pretty fantastic. It's a good transfer. There are a few shadow delineation issues throughout, but it's a very dark film, and for the most part, you can see the action at most times. Every once in a while, I kind of wished I could see a little more than I could, but overall, the high definition serves it pretty well. The Dolby True HD surround sound is very good. This is a film with a lot of atmosphere as well as a lot of action, and I think the soundtrack handles both aspects of that quite well. In terms of extra features, there's a pretty good amount of stuff. You get the World of Elysium behind-the-scenes featurette, which is always nice to see. A neat little short film called What Happened to Nadia's Team, which fills in a brief bit of the backstory, even if the acting in it is a little bit cheesy. It looks like it was kind of one of those short films made to win a contest or something like that. There's a flight team training video, and then there's an audio commentary with the director and the producer of the film. On top of that, you get a handful of deleted and alternate scenes, some of which are kind of interesting, including a very short alternate ending, which I am glad they left out because it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense, although it is interesting. And finally, there are some still galleries to round things out. All those features are available on both the Blu-ray and the DVD. If you haven't checked out Pandorum, which I know most of you haven't because the film kind of flopped at the box office, I really do recommend checking it out. I'm sure there will be some people who think it's a little too derivative of other films to really enjoy it, but I have to say, I was riveted from start to finish. I found the movie extremely enjoyable, and I think anybody who likes a good sci-fi thriller or a good horror movie is really going to find a lot to like with this one. So this one gets my highly recommended stamp.